And we're back with another episode of the Hypercast. This is a certain episode. I remember which episode, but can anyone help me here? Which one is it? Which number?
No idea.
Great. Off to a great start. Anyway,
Maybe 5?
uh,
I'm gonna go with 5.
maybe 5.
Somewhere around there.
Okay. We could check, but that feels like a lot of work. But we're talking about Taxi Driver today, one of consensus greatest films of all time. It's in
John, who do
Tarantino's
you
top
have with you
5.
today?
I'm working on it. I'm doing
I'm
a thing
so
here.
sorry.
I'm introducing the movie.
Okay, movie's more
The person
important.
who
Got
just interrupted me is Natie. She's here, I guess.
it.
And of course, Kyler's here.
Yo.
That's
As
favoritism.
always. Well, I mean, the two of us are in every single episode of this show, so every single episode of the channel.
John and I have not missed an episode yet
We have not.
of anything.
Oh.
We're on the grind.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, we're on it.
Yeah,
Something.
that's great. All right. You may now continue with Taxi Driver. I am so sorry, John.
It's just something masterpiece. Tarantino. It's in his top 5 movies of all time. It's in Leonardo DiCaprio's top 3 movies of all time. And Roger Ebert, the most acclaimed film critic of all time, gave it an 100 out of 100. So
Leonardo DiCaprio.
yeah, pretty pretty
What a man.
influential, important movie. Created its own genre almost. But so we're gonna talk about that today, I guess.
Do you want to
Awesome.
do pre-scores?
Yeah, we'll give you a quick
Reviews.
impression before we do the spoiler section. So, anyone want to start?
Ladies first.
I don't remember what mine was. I know it was lower.
Well, we can't say the actual number here. Look in chat. So we gotta save the number.
Oh, wait. Would you like me to explain what my rating is or tell the number?
No, just don't say the number. Just we've done this 5 times.
We said the number at the beginning.
I'll start. We never did, but anyway, I highly recommend this film. I think it's one of the greatest films of all time. Definitely go watch it. Masterclass performance by De Niro. Scorsese behind the camera is truly a gift. So, yeah.
Okay, now I can go. Now I understand this. I thought the movie was very interesting. Definitely was not one of my favorites, but I thought, I don't know, there were some parts where I was left kind of curious what was going on, and I guess I just wanted a little bit more fast paced. There's been movies in the past where I wish that they were more realistic, that like people took time to talk and stuff like that, and time like you could see their thoughts, and I guess this movie did that a lot, and I don't know, my brain was kind of like I don't know, taken aback by people actually thinking about their words, and we'll explain more about that later, but it was just a little slow for me.
I'm gonna go with interesting as well. It was very slow at certain points, but at other points it was very fast-paced. I think I got a lot of secondhand embarrassment from a lot of the scenes, just with him socially interacting with people because of how awkward some of his interactions were. But definitely an interesting movie, and I would recommend watching it, even though I am frustrated with a particular part of the movie, which we'll discuss later.
So that was our non-spoiler section. So if you haven't seen it, please pick your movies more carefully, and go watch it and then come back. And I think Kyler wanted to start with you want to start with that scene?
So the frustrating scene for me was actually
Oh wait, did I
the
tell him spoilers?
all right, you're gonna get spoiled right now. So if you
Okay.
don't want to hear spoilers, you should leave now. Um, the frustrating part for me was actually the ending of the movie. Not the exact ending, but pretty much the ending. And it was where the main character gets shot in the neck with a handgun. And I get why he didn't die. However, he should have died, and they should have shot him somewhere else if they didn't want him to die.
Well, they shot like a major artery, like it skimmed his neck, but it still like hit a major artery. So like, I don't know. I guess for the forensic scientist for me as well, like there could have been like, there should have been a huge blood splatter because like that's a lot of pressure up in your like arteries right there, and it could have gone like everywhere. Anyway, but yeah, I agree with you. The end kind of bothered me that he didn't die. I don't know. I guess I wanted him to die. Ish, that's awful to say, but like I don't know. I guess that part just made sense. But I liked how it was different, and he didn't. It was odd that they were calling him a hero, and I guess there was a different perspective to it as well. Um, if we're sticking on that scene, I guess I keep trying to say Palpatine. It's Palantine. I was angry that he didn't get Palantine and they just like he didn't try again. Like he tried to go and assassinate Palantine and then didn't and like got stopped and ran. I don't know. I thought that was just kind of weird. It may be a little unnecessary if he just that didn't have any I don't know how to describe it. It was just odd. I guess it showed us his little mohawk that he had that symbolizes, as John told us at the end of the film. John told Kyler and I that it meant like that he was going on a suicide mission and stuff like that. So it gave us a chance to like see the mohawk and stuff like that. But I wish like there's a little bit more action with that, and not him just running away.
So I guess I'll start with like my kind of interpretation of like why he didn't die from, the bullet or whatever. And like he should have died. I think we're all in agreement on that. But the film is sort of like, so the shot right after that, right after he finishes killing those three people, and it's kind of like a sky view. It's called the God's Eye. Throughout the movie, Travis refers to himself as he's God's lonely man. And I think that his whole like mission in doing that was he wanted to go in there, he wanted to kill those three people, and then he was going to die. And in doing so, he gets to leave his life seeing himself as a hero. And I think him living when he shouldn't have is almost like life not letting him, something not letting him leave the life as a hero like he wanted to, because he doesn't deserve that. That was my interpretation.
Right, and that makes a lot of sense. I agree with you that I don't know, it gave him what he deserved. I guess throughout the movie I was kind of manipulated into seeing him as a good guy. I don't know, I guess like I'm not a major movie critic. I haven't seen all like the impactful I'm gonna step on the train for a second. Okay, going back for it. So um I don't know, the movie persuaded me into thinking that he was a good guy and like trying to save um wow, what's her name? The girl that he met that ran into her cab.
Which girl? Iris?
Iris, thank you. There we go. Okay. Um, the movie persuaded us that he was like trying to help Iris and like trying to get her out of this and stuff like that. But I guess if I saw it another time, I could just see all of the I don't know, like the bad like underneath I don't know, underneath his mind and stuff like that. Because there was like a lot of things that raised some red flags, and so I guess we were just all persuaded to think he was the good guy. And like seeing him go and kill a bunch of people, we think, oh yeah, he's a bad guy, and then he lives again, which is odd.
Yeah, I think another important thing is that like he wasn't actually saving Iris to save Iris. He was mostly doing it for himself. I think a large portion of why I think there's some part of him that wanted to save this 12-year-old girl, but it's kind of clear to me that he, especially at the end when he's going to shoot himself in front of her, that like it's not actually as important to him that he saves her and that she gets out of there, but more important that he saves her for himself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, he's kind of egotistical. He's kind of there for like, especially when he was like looking at himself in the mirror when he had all of his like contraptions and stuff like that. Like the second half of the movie was kind of preparing for that moment, and he was just so invested in, I don't know, making himself, I don't know, look cool as well as be practical as well. I don't know, he was just kind of egotistical.
I think he's kind of just unhinged. I don't think he's really. I think he's just crazy. Because even at the beginning of the movie, and I don't know what has made him this crazy, but I think he's crazy to some degree and for some reason. Because at the beginning of the movie, he literally gets a taxi job because he can't sleep. Like, who gets a job because they can't sleep? I don't know that that's necessarily logical, and a lot of the things he does don't seem very logical or, I mean, they're planned out, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They're not normally logical.
Right.
His biggest like thing is that he kind of hates this world and he hates the city and he wants to, wash it away, but all of his hatred is like everything he hates about the world, he forces himself to go through. Like he very clearly hates like the rougher areas of where he drives, but when he first gets his job, one of the most important lines in the movie, I think, is it's like, where do you want to drive? Harlem, Uptown, and he's like, anytime, anywhere. Even though he really he hates these places, and he's racist, but he
Yeah.
puts himself through everything. He purposefully drives like he almost wants to reassure himself that his hatred is valid by driving through those places and by doing all the things that he hates.
Mhm. And also to go with the racism as well, like a little side note. So, Scorsese himself, as John told us, made a little promo, like a little appearance in his film as being one of the people that was in his taxi, and that's where he heard about the 45 and like what it does and stuff like that, like planting the idea of a gun in his head. And because his wife was cheating on him with someone else that was of color, and so Scorsese like full on said the word that people said more during the 70s that is definitely not okay to say now. And so my 2021 brain was thinking about that right now and really hoping that, I don't know if if media picks up that scene in particular, if Scorsese films could be canceled as well, if just because of that he could, I don't know, there could be a lot of films that, I don't know. I I think it put a timestamp on the film and showed that it was during the 70s. That's when that happened as well.
Yeah,
So
and to clarify, the film itself isn't racist. It's
no, not at all.
focused on a character who is a racist.
Right. And so
And,
I was just noted. Yeah, I was just noticing that and hoping that people don't take that out of context of the movie and just respect it with the film. And so I thought that part, my brain was spinning during that part, hoping that, yeah, that people would respect this film. But yeah,
Well, he did The Irishman in 2019, and they use those words. So I think he's right. But I guess to touch on that scene, because I really do love that scene where they're in the car. It's almost like, Scorsese's character is talking about killing this woman, but when they're in the car, it's really Travis Bickle who's the most dangerous person there.
right.
Even though the character is talking about going into this room and shooting his wife in the head, you sort of know that Travis is gonna do something similar to that, and he almost feels more dangerous than a person who's literally telling us that. And I think it's just a testament to like how the movie's shot, written, the score, and how De Niro like performs his character, that's able to work.
Right. And the fact that he's just silent and just chilling there, like taking it all in, it's kind of chilling. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'll go back to the start. So like when we first get introduced to the character, it's a very close-up shot of De Niro's eyes, but he never looks into the camera. Even though it's almost like impossible for him not to, his eyes are always dancing around it. He's always looking to the side. He's always looking to something off screen, and that's kind of mirrored in how he looks at people in his mirror in the taxi cab. He never looks at himself. He's always watching. And then at the end, he finally like looks himself in the eyes and he shoves the mirror away because he doesn't like what he sees. And the whole movie is told through the eyes of Travis Bickle. So essentially, in Robert De Niro never looking into the camera, it's just another like emphasis on him not being able to, accept himself, kind of.
Right.
So
And
do you go
what's
ahead?
up, Kyler? No, you go ahead.
So are you saying that um Travis may see himself as maybe part of the issue, or do you think he sees himself entirely as a solution?
Yeah, he never sees himself as the issue. He doesn't like himself, but he never sees himself as the issue. He's the way he is because of his environment. Even though he forces like everything he hates onto himself, it's all self-inflicted. So it's very interesting. And then there's a heavy emphasis on like darkness and like the underworld, and it's seen with like there's a lot of scenes where smoke is like kind of seeping into the shot. The opening scene where the taxi drives through the smoke, it's kind of like the underworld coming up. That's kind of what that represents, and that's how
Yeah.
Travis looks at like everything he hates. And then the opening shot uses a technique called chemtone. I had to Google this beforehand because I forgot the name, but it basically, since the whole film is through his perspective, it starts with like him driving, and you see the city, but it's kind of distorted. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, I know, remember what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's kind of like he can't actually see the light in the world. It's a very literal, like his view on the world is so distorted that he can really only see the darkness, even though there's so much light that's present there. And he forces himself to, see the darker sides of humanity. Just something interesting.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, especially when he's talking about like the scum of the street and how like I don't know, it's just there and I don't know, he talks about the filth, stuff like that. I don't know. And I guess that could kind of lead to the soundtrack. I know you wanted to talk about a little bit about that, John. Oh, that was one of the things that made me, I don't know, very annoyed with the film. Like literally every moment that they had where he was like in his taxi just driving along, they played the same. I wasn't paying attention. I was only paying attention to like the first two notes and like getting angry, and then like ignoring the rest of the song just because it drove me insane. But it was like the saxophone playing some sort of tune to like represent the streets, like, and stuff like that. And I don't know, it drove me insane how many times they played it over and over, and I didn't realize till after when John and Kyler both said that, I don't know, each time the song was a little different. So I guess if I paid attention more to the song, I only paid attention to the first like little snippet of it. But I guess if I paid attention more to the song, that would make it'd be less annoying. But I know, John, you had a theory about it because I don't know, I thought it was annoying. I think I would have been very annoyed in the movie theater if I saw this like right when it came out.
Yeah. I kind of, so the whole film is like, it's like, yeah, it's like a first person, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's definitely through the eyes of Travis, right? So I kind of saw the score as just like, it's like an audio representation of how he's viewing his current circumstances. So it plays every time he's doing like something that we've seen before, right? So when he's in the taxi, he's driving. But every single time there's like a slight difference. So the drums come in sooner, or there's a pause, or the wind instruments are louder. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Yeah, but it's always slight until it's not. And it's sort of representing like his mundane sort of world changing. And the change to the music is very gradual throughout the movie. When it starts, it's so similar that most people wouldn't even notice it. But as it keeps going and going and going, the changes become more evident, and the drums are louder. There's more drums, which is like that's percussion, so it's much more like noticeable.
Once I noticed it
Right.
too, it almost made me uncomfortable
Right.
because I was expecting a certain thing, and then all of a sudden it was not what I was expecting anymore.
Yeah, that was interesting. Well, I don't know, what kind of drove me insane as well was when I don't know what's his name, but Iris was with the dude that she thinks loves him and stuff like that. I don't know, sort of like this pimp dude. Um, and they were like,
Sport.
who?
Harvey Keitel. Sport. The pimp. Sport.
The sport. Yes.
Yeah.
Then she calls him like some like Michael. I don't know. But he goes to like put on a
Matthew.
record. Matthew, there you go. It was an M name. He went to put on this record, and the same song, like the one that always plays, stuff like that, that was on the record. I thought that was very interesting, a very odd take and stuff like that. And it kind of represented like, I don't know, the song was just the mundane things that are normal to people and stuff like that, and it was just normal to him. And
Yeah, there's very few shots that like Travis isn't in.
Yeah.
In the movie, there's that one. There's the one where he's doing the voiceover and he's talking about Betsy, and he's talking about how she's like this angel, and I don't know. He says like they will never touch her or something.
Right.
Scorsese's in that scene too. He's sitting he's in the background there.
Is he really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What was this wasn't his first film, was it?
No, Mean Streets. Love that movie.
Okay.
So Harvey Keitel and Robert De Niro were both at Mean Streets. So kind of like
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, he did like Small Things before Mean Streets, obviously. Mean Streets was like the first, film. Yeah.
I know this is kind of related to the film, but like, ish. Kyler won't know what I'm talking about. We talked about it in a class that our teacher was telling us about, but the person that attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan was obsessed with this movie. So John Hinckley Jr. Really loved this movie and fell in love with Jodie Foster, and he, I don't know, he made it his mission to like keep writing letters to her and stuff like that, like saying that he was obsessed. And he was over in California and she was off at like Yale University. And then Hinckley said, haha, I'm moving over to dang it, where's Yale? I don't know. He said, I'm moving over to the east side to be closer to her. I think he moved to like, I don't know. Anyway, he moved somewhere on the east, closer to the White House, but like in between Yale and the White House, something like that. And so eventually he was telling Connecticut, thank you, John. Then he told Jodie Foster that he was going to assassinate the president for her, that he is going to complete this for her because that's what Travis did in the movie, and so that's what he will do for her. Just to try and save her ish. I don't know exactly what his thoughts were behind it. So eventually we all know what happened. He went to go try and assassinate Ronald Reagan, which luckily did not pan out. And so and it was interesting because he based all of this off of Taxi Driver, and that was his love for it and his main reason behind it as well. And so I thought that was very interesting. And I'm pretty sure he tried buying one of the guns that Travis used in the movie. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know if that was just something our teacher told us, but he was very, I don't know, he was very attached to that movie and tried to make it what he wanted to base it off of. Eventually they found that he had schizophrenia, but he was very obsessed with Jodie Foster, who was in the second half of the movie and played Iris. But yeah, is there anything I'm missing, Kyler?
I don't think so. I don't remember him talking about that, but I think you're right.
Really?
Yeah, no, I don't. I do remember him talking about um Hinckley, but I don't remember the
Mm.
actual conversation.
I just remember
I
hearing him say Taxi Driver and like explain that story and going, we must tell John immediately.
Oh yeah, I kind of do remember that now. I do think it's interesting how much a movie can affect someone though. Like the
Right.
fact that he based these massive actions on a movie is insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean, he wasn't right in the head anyway, so like he obviously had some mental health issues, but still crazy.
Right. So yeah.
What was the scene that I was thinking of before? Oh, the scene where Palantine is in the car with Travis,
Mm-hmm.
I think is a very interesting scene. And also becomes confusing because Travis is telling him all these problems, and it seems like Palantine is really listening to him and being like, yeah, we really do need to clean up this scum of the streets, in his word. And yeah, we need to work on that. And I just think it's interesting that after later in the movie he tries to assassinate him, even though I would think that Travis would think that he agreed with him.
Yeah. I think he was just doing like a politician thing. I'm not very into politics, but like just like agreeing to get the votes and stuff like that. And I couldn't tell if Bickle was very into I couldn't tell if he was fake being into Palantine or he was like actually into Palantine, like just being into Palantine just to impress Betsy and just because, I don't know, that's what a lot of other people were doing, but I don't know, I couldn't tell just because he was so invested in it, but he wasn't doing anything to show his investment. He just had a poster and stuff like that. So I
Yeah,
don't know if this was
I don't think he's ever into Palantine. I mean, it gets mentioned multiple times that he has no idea what his policies even are. Um, Betsy asks him, "What policies do you like at Palantine?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't really follow his policies."
mm,
And I think Palantine asks something similar, and he's kind of like, "Yeah, I don't know. Just if there was one thing I could do." And I think to bring up like the streets thing and how Palantine's agreeing to him, I think there's like a few things that could be happening. I'm not really set on one. Either he's uncomfortable and he just wants to agree with him because he's uncomfortable, or it's like because he kind of describes it as like filth, and New York is kind of seen as like kind of like a the streets are kind of dirty. There's like trash and stuff,
oh, they smell
and
awful.
but the way Travis thinks of like scum and filth is very different from how like a normal person would think of like the trash and the filth of New York. So there's like a disconnect between how a normal person would look at those words in relation to the city and how Travis looks at them.
Right. I remember there was a joke in there somewhere where Palantine was talking about, like, I don't know who was talking about it, but they were talking about like the smells of New York, and like there were certain areas where you had to like hold your breath. I think that was Travis talking to Betsy at the beginning. They were walking around and stuff like that, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you have to hold your breath here because it smells," and stuff like that. And I can attest to that. It's true. Sometimes it smells awful. And I was in New York for a little bit, and there was like one section of street that just I had to hold my breath while walking, and so I guess I can see kind of where um Travis was going with that as well, just because it's awful and you shouldn't be walking somewhere and then have to hold your breath anywhere. Like, it's kind of disgusting as well. I don't know. This could have just been the Avengers fan in me, but like I felt a little bit of like Thanos vibes ish with like wanting to get rid of like half the population when he was talking about just like trying to get rid of people in New York and stuff like that and trying to, I don't know, take people out of it. And so I don't know, it just made me think of Avengers and Thanos and stuff like that, of just trying to get rid of people and thinking that the world is better with less people and it helps the economy and stuff like that and helps famine, yeah, all that stuff. So I can kind of see that with Travis's thinking, like maybe that'll help clear up New York, maybe it'll help it smell less, maybe it'll help people, I don't know, get off the streets and help find jobs and stuff like that. I don't know, just kind of what I saw from that.
Yeah, I mean his reasons are very different than Thanos for why he wants to get rid of these people. He never actually gives like a like a real reason. Like it's never
Right.
for helping the betterment of people. He just looks at them as scum. He wants to wipe them all out. And you don't
Right.
even like. I feel like there's not even like a good scope of how many people he's truly thinking about that need to be washed away.
He doesn't even give a very good like outline of what people he describes as scum, to be honest.
And that's kind of how his mind works. It's very like it's very sporadic. It's very all over the place. And the movie kind of shows that. He goes so quickly from Betsy to Iris, and then so quickly from killing Palantine to killing, Sport and all of his buddies. And that
Hmm.
there's never like a justification because in Travis's own mind, he doesn't have one.
I'm thinking about it and I can't think of a justification for even killing Palantine.
Right. That's very
Like
purposeful by the film.
Mm. Yeah.
You have more to say?
No, I was just agreeing.
No, Kyle.
I like he doesn't justify killing him to impress. What was her name again?
Iris or Betsy, one of the two.
Betsy.
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 He
Okay.
doesn't justify killing Palatine to impress Betsy or to even like get back at Betsy for um essentially dumping him and like saying, "Hey, I don't want anything to do with you anymore." Like either one of those could have been a very good justification, but they don't hint to those either way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very true. And I don't know. Betsy, I don't think we've talked about Betsy much, except for the angel, like they cannot touch her, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
I don't know. That was very interesting. And I guess it kind of plays to when she left Travis on their, I don't know, first date out-ish, like not to the dinner or not to lunch. But I I'm kind of siding with Betsy on that one. I would have definitely left. That would have made me very uncomfortable. That would have been odd. Um, to our first date to the movies. That was weird. But I guess that kind of plays towards where he was talking about how she was like an angel and they cannot touch her. She got up and left by herself. She said that was it. I'm done. Um, just because she didn't want to be involved with any of that and didn't want to be associated with that as well. And I guess that sort of goes with, yeah, again, her being the angel. I'm going in circles here, but I don't know. That's making me think, like,
Mm.
does Travis think that those movies are like part of this like thing that's making people part of the scum of the street?
Yeah. I've thought a lot about I've watched this movie like 5 times. I love this movie. But I've thought a lot about like Betsy and kind of what she represents in the scope of the movie. And with how Travis writes about her and talks about her and looks at her, she almost represents like in his mind like the last pure good thing like in the world, right?
Mhm.
And so to me, taking her to, the adult cinema, uh, it's it's his way of like either, he corrupts her and he proves that nothing in this world is pure, or she leaves and she stays pure. And either way he wins, right?
Right.
Or no, hold on, let me reword that. But if she leaves, then it's just another reason for him to like hate the world. But if she stays, then he's just corrupted someone else and proven how like, how scum the world is almost. It's kind of what I took away from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it. So is he grouping himself in with the scum?
No, he's always grouping himself in like his own category, even though he
So
probably
it's,
is like close to the scum.
yeah. As if he claims these other people to be scum by going to these movies, I don't know. I remember at the beginning when he was talking about when he was at the taxi driver thingy and he was applying for the job and stuff like that, and he was like, I couldn't sleep, and the employer was like, try these movies, and he was like, they don't work. And so I
Yeah,
guess, yeah, so I guess that kind of goes along with that as well, of just he's putting himself above that, even though he's going there and he is being a part of like quote unquote the scum. Um,
right.
he is placing himself above everyone else, so I guess that kind of makes sense.
What's that quote that Betsy says to him? The song where it's like you're a walking contradiction. Is very much
Oh,
what Travis
yeah,
is. He contradicts himself at every turn.
right.
He he talks about hating the scum, and then he purposely puts himself in a position to interact with them multiple times on a daily basis.
Mhm.
He thinks that like these adult films are scummy and terrible, and he doesn't believe in them, but he goes to them. He goes to them 3 separate times in the movie.
Right. And then he talks
Yeah.
about the guns when he's in the coffee shop with the other taxi drivers, and he's like, "I don't need one. I don't need a gun."
Right.
And then he goes off and like gets the supplier, the dude salesman, and then gets a whole case of them and stuff like that. So it
Mhm.
gets, proving your point as well.
Yeah. I'm gonna talk about. I guess one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when he's like in the public area and he's talking to Betsy on the phone, sending her a message. I don't think she picked up. You know what I'm talking about?
When?
After they break up and he's calling her back on the payphone.
I think I remember what you're talking about. Keep going with it.
Okay, well, like the camera's focused on him, but the camera moves over to like show the hallway, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I
In the
remember that.
hallway, there's nothing happening in the hallway except for the door that leads to like the dark city.
Oh yeah, now I know what you're talking about.
And I think it's like representing how after his failure with Betsy, he is going to take to the streets.
Mm.
I don't know, I really like that. Kind of
That
subtle.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Kyle, you want to say something? Don't look quiet.
I cannot remember that scene, to be honest.
Okay. Do you want to talk about something else? Bring something else up? Anything eating away at you?
Not currently.
You like to talk about guns. What about the salesman with all of his guns? I think you geeked out during that part.
I thought it was funny that if you look at the case, the bottom 4 guns were all the exact same gun, which was interesting to me. I'm like, which to be fair, it was a common gun at the time, but it was like, that's funny to me. Um, the sheer size of the first handgun he buys is insane, and the dude's like, this is I forget what he calls it. Oh, he tells them they hunt elephants in Africa with it, and it's like, well, no, but I guess it's the entire time the gun salesman is talking, he doesn't know what he's talking about. If you know guns at all, which I think is hilarious and can also, in my opinion, can play into Travis's scum of the earth theory that people just, I don't know. I think it's interesting that he goes to that guy who he definitely, I would think, would consider as a scum of the earth type of person to buy those guns and get those things.
Right.
Yeah. He's it's the contradiction again. He hates the he hates the people who buy guns. He looks down at Scorsese's character when he's in the car and he's talking about killing his wife, and then he buys the exact guns he's talking about. Everything that Travis does is like self-inflicted. Everything that happens to him, he does to himself.
Mhm.
Which I think I think it makes the movie better because there's points where you feel sympathy, and then by the end, you're almost like uncomfortable with how much sympathy you show this character throughout the movie. And
Right.
I think that's honestly pretty brilliant. Like film wise.
Another
I don't even know how
contradiction
you would
is
go.
how much he seems confident he knows what he's talking about as he's buying them and what he's doing, and then basically just takes whatever recommendation the salesman has.
Yeah. I love that scene where he grabs, I don't remember which gun, but he basically pointed out the window and he's like looking down at the street and, he's very high up in the building. And
Mm,
it's almost like it's a visual representation of what he wants to do to the city. If he
Yeah.
could, he would take a gun to the entire city and just blow the whole thing up.
yeah.
He wants to wash away everyone. And that's kind of, you know,
Do you
visually
think he
shown
almost
there.
has like a god complex in a way?
He kind of looks at himself as a savior at points. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Oh, something that I mentioned at the beginning of this video that bothered me-ish. It makes sense. Scorsese kind of did some of the, um, I don't know, had some of the actors, like especially when they were out, it was Travis and the other dude, awful haircut, where like the top of his head was bald. And, like, I don't know what his name was, but he was like, he'd been
Tom,
working the, Tom? Sure? Yeah,
maybe.
Tom. I don't know, he had been working the streets for a long time as a taxi driver, and they were chatting and stuff like that.
A
And Tom
wizard.
was, hmm?
The taxi driver or the guy in Palatine's office?
The
It's
taxi
Wizard.
driver. Wizard?
Wizard.
Okay. Wizard. They were out talking next to his taxi cab, and he was like, you know what, I haven't bought my own taxi cab, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And they were just like having a little heart to heart because Travis was admitting to him that he wasn't happy with what was going on and stuff like that. And he was, and Wizard was having this heartful conversation and was trying to help Travis and stuff like that, but he was taking his time with his words and speaking like how humans do in real life. I noticed that in a lot of movies how people don't use ums usually, how they just speak their lines and that is it. There's no thought. I don't know. It's with common acting-ish. I don't know. They don't really, it feels like they're quick thinkers. They know what they want to say. There's no pauses. There's no repeats of words and sentences, which is not normal for a lot of people in real life. We repeat our sentences. We have our verbal fillers and stuff like that. And Scorsese added that into a lot of the dialect throughout the entire movie. And so I thought that was very interesting and very, I don't know, very intriguing to hear in a movie for once rather than just have people with scripted words. And so I partially enjoyed it, but it was different for me to watch because my brain was wanting them to pick up the pace and just to speak more and just not stop and take a breather between every word. I just wanted them to go and I just wanted the dialogue to be faster. And I don't know, that conversation in general kind of bothered me because at the end of once Wizard was done with his little speech that he was giving about, yeah, it's hard, but things will be okay. And Travis was like, I don't really know about that. That's fine. Okay. And like that was the end of it. And so I don't know. That
Yeah.
was just my personality, just getting angry with Travis. Like, dude, be nice. Say thanks.
Yeah. Well, we talked about the social network on this show. That was our first
Yeah.
episode, I think. And the
Not
dialogue
a
there,
first.
second episode or third?
Something like that. Third?
Right. Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
don't know. But Aaron Sorkin wrote the screenplay for that, and how he writes dialogue, it's very fast. There's no breaks in between. They're almost like cutting each other off in their thoughts. And yeah, I love the way the dialogue in this movie is directed. There's stuttering, there's long pauses, it's uncomfortable, and even the way that like Travis almost explained his own writing in his head. Like there was a scene where he's sitting on his bed and he's reading what he's writing, and he just completely starts over. And I think
Yeah,
that's
that was very interesting.
Yeah,
yeah,
and I think that's a very interesting way to show what he's thinking as well.
yeah. I guess I don't know what to talk about. There's so much to talk about. I guess talk about framing because I really love how the movie's framed. Anytime like Travis is in a conversation with someone, like at the diner, uh, when him and Betsy are talking, anytime Travis is talking, it's always framed in a way where he is the only person like shown. There is no, you don't see Betsy's back. You don't see any other characters. He's the only one there. It's almost like,
Yeah.
emphasizing his loneliness. He's God's lonely man. But anytime Betsy is shown, you always see Travis's like red coat. You always see people walking in the background.
I think it also emphasizes like him putting himself above everybody else too. Not just his
Yeah,
loneliness,
maybe.
just like I don't want to say like the attention has to be on him because I don't think it's necessarily that way in his mind, but kind of his
Well,
importance.
I don't know if it's importance, but I think it's like because he looks at himself as the lonely man. I mean, he calls himself God's lonely man. So the whole movie is his perspective, right? So essentially, every single camera shot is how he looks at his world, and so he's framing himself as the loneliest person in the room. Even when he's walking through the streets, the civilians' faces are like blurred. You never see them. It's always just him.
Right, and I guess that kind of goes with what you were talking about at the very end as well, with that one shot, like it's like
The
looking on
God's eye.
everyone. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
looking down on everyone. It just like starts with him and then like moves its way across the room. So it's kind of like showing that he's not the only one there. That there are multiple people that were trying to help as well, and then just panning out and stuff like that. So I thought those focused on him and then just went out to multiple people.
Right.
Interesting.
I guess to touch on that scene again, I kind of skipped over one of the most important parts, but after all the chaos, he puts his hands to his head in like a gun-like motion, and he does it 3 times. And I think that signifies a couple things. I think first it represents the 3 people he killed in there. That's the 3. But I also think that it's kind of how he looks at his upcoming situation. Like he thinks he's gonna die, and he planned on dying.
Right, and I couldn't tell if that was him trying to signal that he wanted the police to shoot him, or he was just trying to just say that he's gonna die. I don't know. I thought they were gonna end the movie right there, like that was gonna be it. So
Hmm.
I was very surprised when they showed up and were like, "Oh yeah, he's a hero, made full recovery." I like
I
how
love the
Aris,
ending. Yeah.
yeah, I like how
The
Aris's
gods
parents
view,
wrote. Go ahead,
go ahead.
Kevin.
The gods view I was thinking about too. Um, I think it's interesting how he shows the carnage that Travis has essentially wrecked on this house. Like in most films, I think they go in, they make this giant mess, and then if they're gonna die, they die, or if not, they're just gonna walk out of the house and be done with it. I think it's very interesting that they show the carnage he left behind him and show exactly like how big of an impact this was and what scene he left behind
Yeah.
and what he actually did to let his actions sink in and the full impact sink into you.
I also like how like the shootout itself is very messy, and it's not coordinated. It's not, no matter how many times he went to the shooting range, he is terrible at it, in essence. And they shoot him in the shoulder, and they shoot him in the neck, and they shoot him, in his stomach, and he barely survives. And it's not heroic, and it's not framed that way. It's just it's like a mess. It's gross, and it's up close, and it's, you see the blood. The blood splatters come close to the camera. And then
Yeah,
as it ends, his entire body is just bloody, and his fingers are bloody.
and I think that's very another part that is very accurate is that most people are not that accurate with handguns. Like nobody, it's not John Wick style where he hits every mark that he's aiming for. Like that's how most shootings go. It's just interesting because only like it's some ridiculously low percentage, like 30 or 40% of them actually hit the mark that they're aiming for. Percentage of bullets, I
Right.
mean.
Right. It's
And he
difficult.
has 4, and
Yeah.
he runs out by the end.
Right.
4 guns, and he runs out by the end, killing 3 dudes.
And it's difficult to shoot a handgun. I've shot a handgun before, and like you gotta practice with it before. And like he did take it to the shooting range. I thought it was interesting, like how he laid his guns out in front of him, like took turns shooting. That was something else. You could see bleh. So you could see the different sizes of like the bullets on the target and stuff like that. That was interesting as well. I don't know. There could have been some symbolism between that too, but I don't know. Like to go along with that, it's difficult to aim, and so I liked how realistic they were with that as well. So I know I was not like you see a bunch of movies, like especially gangster movies, where they'll like hold the gun on the side and stuff like that, and there's so much like kickback from a lot of these handguns that like you're gonna miss if you're not aiming correctly. It's gonna be a time, and so I like how realistic they were with it and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, you're not watching Scorsese gangster movies, clearly, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Anyone
yeah.
have anything they want to add before I go into the next thing?
I like how Iris's parents wrote him a letter
Right.
saying how grateful they were.
Yeah.
It
So that
shocks me that she was,
transitions. Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say it shocks me that she was 12.
Oh yeah. She was 12 when they filmed it, I think, too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She looked older. Wow.
Yeah.
She was
I know
tall.
she was under 16. I think she was 12. I watched an interview. They said she was 12.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's that's a pretty intense role to play as a 12-year-old.
Yeah. Apparently, she wasn't uncomfortable with it at all. Like, apparently,
That's
Jodie
crazy.
Foster was just kind of like, no, it's a thing. Like, I've watched interviews, and everyone always asks that. Like, was it hard to film as a 12-year-old? And she's like, not really. And it was, I don't know.
Hmm.
It's interesting because she plays a lady of the night, right? But you never see any scenes of that, right?
Right.
Yeah. And all of the scenes she's in they're uncomfortable, but they're probably uncomfortable more so because of how it's directed and edited and how the sound plays in than it probably was to actually film them.
Right.
So I guess it kind of makes sense, but
Hmm.
still, I don't know. Yeah.
My brain's just going back to the one scene where um Travis like bought her ish. I don't know. Like paid to try and speak with her and stuff like that, and she's trying to do something. I don't know. That just keeps replaying in my head. Like that would make.
Yeah.
I don't think as a 12-year-old I would know what was going on. Like,
No. But also, I feel like this movie was made almost 50
7.
years ago.
That's
So it,
crazy.
came out in 1976. So I can't even begin to imagine what it's like. Like I don't know what it's like to be 12 in 1976, New York.
Right.
Yeah.
So I maybe like they're more informed than 12-year-olds are now. I'm gonna guess they were, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um,
It was the era of love. I think that was the 60s.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it was the
so.
60s. It was coming
70s
right out of
was
the 60s.
70s was disco, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out Saturday Night Fever.
We need to finish
Anyways,
that movie.
yeah. Is finished the right word? We got like 10 minutes in.
Yeah. Enjoy the music.
Anyway,
Okay.
taxi driver. What's the word for it? Backpack.
Summarize.
I will backpack off that last scene.
Put this to a close.
Piggyback.
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 There we go.
Oof. I'll piggyback off the last scene where you talked about the parents writing, and I think it's important to focus on the ending before we kind of begin our wrap up. But the movie ends with Betsy getting back in the taxi cab, and
Mm.
Travis notices before the audience does that it's her in the back, because the scene starts and the camera's entirely on Travis, and he looks in the mirror and he sees her, and his gaze lingers, but it doesn't actually show her until she talks.
Fair.
And then when she does talk, she's almost she looks at him as a hero.
Yeah, and like wanted to be with him,
Yeah.
even though at the beginning she didn't, because he brought her to this movie and was like showing signs of retaliation and stuff like that.
Hmm. But she almost offers like his escape from everything he's hated in the movie. She offers him like I don't know what she says. Does she say like come up to my apartment or something, or we should go to dinner or something?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
the
it's
second
something
one.
like that.
She says something, and that's
I think it's like you want to get
that's
coffee or
his
something like that.
yeah, that's his escape. That's his way back to what he seemingly wanted when the movie started, but he
Right.
I
doesn't
think it's
accept
weird
it.
how the ending almost like makes you question whether he was a good guy or not. Because
Yeah.
throughout the movie, I'm thinking he's crazy and or not a good guy.
I think he's a
But
terrible person who did one good thing on accident.
yeah,
That's kind of how I've looked at it. But like, yeah, the ending, it's another just way of him inflicting, everything he hates on himself. So we'll give our wrap up now. Ratings.
Right.
Who wants to
Who wants
start?
to go first? You guys forced me to go first.
I
Ish.
got it. I'm gonna give it a 9, I think, which
Wow,
definitely
that's a
went
big
up
jump.
from my original rating of a 6 because we rated them directly after we watched the movie. And right after we watched the movie, I'm still upset that he didn't die. Talking about the movie, I realized it is, in fact, a very, very good movie. So, a 9, because it's a fantastic movie. There's a lot of meaning behind it, and it's very nicely written and directed,
Yeah.
except for the fact that I'm upset about a few minor things.
Yeah. I'll go next. Uh, I'm sure anybody who's watching could have guessed, but I'm going to give this movie a 10. Um, it's in my top 3 favorite movies of all time. It's probably number 3. Um, I love everything about this movie. The way I rank movies, I start everything at a 5, and what I like brings it up, and what I don't like brings it down. What I think is good and bad. And I don't know if there was a single scene in this movie that I didn't enjoy or thought had a purpose in the movie. I love it from start to finish, and the more I watch it, the more I love it. And I've seen it, 5, 6 times now, and I still pick up on things like the poster that he has in his room of when he's first talks to Betsy at the cafe, and he's like, "I'm gonna get organized," and then he has the poster in his room later on when he's way past Betsy, and there's a lot of subtle things. It's a very subtle movie, and I love it. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's perfect.
And I'm gonna bounce right off of that, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I I don't know. There was just something about it just annoyed me-ish. There were a few moments where I was just questioning what was going on, what the purpose of some of them were. I guess I have only seen this movie once, and I guess if I saw it more, I would pick up on a lot more things. And so like John said, at each time that he watches it, he picks up on more things. And so I guess if I were to watch it again, I think I would see. I saw that poster with the organized eyes, and I was like, oh, that's cute. That he was like adding things. So he was a lovable, but like kind of scary character at the same time. So it was interesting how Scorsese made that into the film. And so I don't know. I thought it was interesting. It was definitely not like any other movie that I've seen before. It was very different. Um, the cinematography was really great. There were some scenes that weren't as straightforward, and I guess that's sort of like the magic of the film. But yeah, that was my take on it. I hope you all go and watch this film, and
Please.
preferably before you listen to this podcast. We should have said that at the beginning, but it's fine. It's fine. So
I think we said that. We said
we
that.
said that, yeah. So we're
Right.
with spoilers.
Definitely did.
Yeah, yeah. We'll just assume.
Mm.
But yeah, go enjoy watching Taxi Driver and let us know your thoughts in the comments. And listen to our other content that's on different places. We are on Anchor, so that's pretty much everywhere you can find a podcast, as well as YouTube. And you can follow our social media accounts on Instagram and Twitter and all that other good stuff.
If
They're
you
on the
like
screen
gaming
now.
content, John and
Gaming?
Kyler have made a lot.
Oh
Yes, I
yeah.
referred to Kyler in the third person. Be fantastic to actually have some viewers on there, as well as on this.
To be honest, those are our most successful videos. So,
True.
So they must be good.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
I find them funny.
We find ourselves funny.
Yeah, they're fun.
You guys could entertain yourselves for hours.
Well, yeah.
But anyway, oh, John, come on.
Come on, you can't say something like that. All right, anyway.
Anyway. So we
Talking
will
to me?
see. Yeah, so we'll see you hopefully next
we
week.
didn't bring that up. Dang.
What?
You talking to me?
You talking to me?
Talking to me?
Oh yeah,
Talking to me?
we started. John suggested that we watch this film
No,
after we
yeah.
watched an episode of South Park where Mr. Garrison is standing in a mirror with a gun saying, "You talk to me, you talk to
You
me."
talking to
So
me? I'm the only
yeah.
person here. You must be talking to me.
Absolutely.
They should put that on a shirt.
With Mr. Garrison's face.
No.
Yes. Oh, I think so.
I hate people.
Love South Park. Okay. Well,
Alright,
we'll hopefully see you next week.
like, subscribe, and see ya.